I will not. It's a love in your heart, pain in your mind.
It's not much. First, I was giving honor and praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sustainable love and balance, universes, to his illustrious prophet, Dawiyd, who came in these days and times, teaching the Moors to be themselves. The Moors who fell into the grave of Negro, black, colored, Ethiopian, African American, or any of the other names that the pale skinned nations of Europe choose to place upon the Moors. We know these are very simply misnomers. These are not the names or titles that belong to the Moors. Islam? So our flag, the real Old Glory, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center, representing the 5 highest principles that are known to man. That is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. To the American banner. This banner is a divine reminder that the European nations owe the Moors and they owe us some compound interest. To you, the Ils and Beys, who are the successors of the Prophet's movement, this movement belongs to you. It doesn't belong to any Supreme Grand Sheik, National Grand Sheik, Governor, or anyone else. It belongs to the people and the people's alone. I'd like to say thank you to the people who are present, and thank you to our guests who came a long way to be here with us. I just want to say something about the first person I want to introduce. But before I do that really briefly, I want to tell a really, really quick story about the importance of information to people. The sister always asks me about taxes and internal revenue questions and stuff like that. She comes to the civics class. And one day, I said, well, I'm going to talk specifically to her, to the class, about the internal revenue and taxes and things of that nature. So, me and the governor, Akibay, were talking about it. It was a joke to us because, it was kind of repetitious for us. But repetition is the mother of learning and father of skill. So, what we began to do was just, kind of plan what we would, say about the taxes. So I came out and began to talk about the taxes. And when I looked to the right where the sister was sitting, the sister who I was specifically speaking to her specific concern was sleeping. And I was totally amazed because it should have been more relevant to her than anybody else in the room because the concern was hers. Well, the same thing goes to the Moors in America. They fell asleep on what this is really about. They're not conscious about what the movement really is about. Nor do they really understand the relevance of what those Moorish leaders who are speaking throughout the country about the same thing are saying. This is very important. This is nation time, nothing else. It's not about beating your internal revenue. It's not about beating tickets. And people have a misconception about what Moorish science is, what Dawiyd was committed to, what our movement is committed to. And it's crystal clear to me that that's what it is because of the conversations that our people have. Like, we need to shift our thinking from being consumers to manufacturers. These are all things that we should have done millions of years ago. They dropped an atomic bomb on the Japanese, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They come back to be one of the most powerful economic nations in the world. They don't have a military. They don't have a standing army. Garvey said something that's very important. I want to read something if I may. I need somebody to go in the back. There's a brown bag. It looks like a suitcase. There's a little small blue and white book, and then I'm going to get out of Reader's Way. And the book is called A Message to the People by Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Really quick, while he looks for it, any questions? No questions. Okay. I'm very grateful for the people who came, and I'm amazed that there are more people here. It's amazing. A lot of the concerns that people had could have probably been answered. You never know. You can never become complacent in information because you never know who's going to say what. You know what I mean? It's a very important book. If you don't have it in your library, you should. If you're a leader, you need to own a copy of this book and the Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. It's called Marcus Garvey, A Message to the People, The Course in African Philosophy. It's what he taught to the leaders of the UNIA. I'm going to read this and read out, I promise I'm going to get out to it. And Garvey said, no race is free until it has a strong nation of its own system of government, its own order of society. Never give up this idea. Let no one persuade you against it. It is the only protection for your generations and your race. Hold on to the idea of an independent government in a nation as long as other men have them. Never be satisfied to always live under the government of other people, because you will always be at their mercy. Visualize for yourself and your children and generations unborn your own king, emperor, president, your own government, officials, and administrators who look like you. God never could have intended to make you look as you look and as you are, and make your king, president, emperor, ruler of a different race than you are. This must not be a license for you to disobey the laws of the kings of other races or rulers of other races while you live under their control. You must always seek and work for a government absolutely your own, where you and your children will have a chance like anybody else in the state, to have a chance to rise from the lowest to the highest position, which you may not attain under other governments. While you're under an alien government, get the best out of them as the rights of citizenship. But always have in view doing something to make it possible for your race to have a nation and a government of its own. Speak of this, dream of this, work unceasingly for this, and never forget this. For this is the great work of the UNIA. Garvey further goes on to say, and I'm going to get out of the way. Never confuse your ideas about nationality with that of other people. So as to think that their nationality is good enough for you. That's why it was key for Noble Drew Ali to come and teach the Moors who we were. That we are the Moorish Americans. That we are the descendants of Moroccans and born in America. What is a Moor? A Moor is a descendant of the Moors from Morocco, but it's also an occupant of North, South, Central America and all of the adjoining islands. Wherever there are melanated people, those are the Moors. Islam? Never think that if Japan takes control of the world, they will treat you better than the Anglo-Saxons or the Latins. Never think that if the Chinese or Indians get control of the world, your position will be better. All other races and nations will use you just the same, as slaves and underdogs. Therefore, your only protection is to have your own government. Don't encourage your people to join Japanese, Chinese, Indian, or other movements with the hope of getting great freedom. I told y'all that they have a big Irish Day parade here in Chicago. When I saw little Asiatic children, you know, unconscious Moors with their little leprechaun hats on, like it has something to do with them. St. Patrick's Day was the day that they chased the Moors from Ireland.
That's right.
They ran the snakes out of Ireland. The snakes was the name that they used for the Moors. There's a book called Ancient and Modern Britain. If I remember, somebody reminds me, I'll dig it out and I'll pass it around like you. Explain this thoroughly and sufficiently so as to discourage ignorant people from thinking otherwise. You should teach your people to have pride in their own nationality and teach them not to try to wear garments that typify membership in other nationalities. It is ridiculous and people laugh at them for doing so. I was laughing. So I can imagine what the Irish person thought. You know? Therefore, do not waste time in that. You can have your own king, emperor, pope, duke, your own everything. Therefore, don't bow to other races for recognition. When you have honored your own men and women, recognize that honor before the whole world, to let the world know that you honored your own. If the world laughs at those you have honored, ask them if they want you to laugh at those that they have honored. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. If they laugh, laugh at them. A white, we'll translate that for a European, king has no more right to drive in a golden coach than your king and sovereign. Their pope has no more right to put on sacred robes than your pope. Their duke and nobles have no more right to be dressed up in feathers than your dukes or nobles. Therefore, have pride in yourself and honor yourself. Don't allow the other nations to get ahead of you in anything. Follow the idea of the Japanese. Every ship that other races build, the Japanese build one. Every university that other races build for teaching men, the Japanese build one. Do the same. Always have your own, because there will not be enough